is.
Brian Burke on the line. Berkey, happy National Burger Day to you and yours. How are you celebrating?
I'm making burgers.
Woo!
With ground beef, not chicken, correct?
I'm making burgers with ground beef on the grill as soon as I get done with the show. I've got the water is boiling for the corn.
Nice.
So even though the weather's not cooperating, we decided we'd have a cookout.
Nice. Now, here's the important question from me, and that may be convenience, but are you going gas or propane barbecue, or can you get charcoal going in the rain?
I've got a line hooked up to the gas line here, so I don't do propane. I don't know how to work the tanks. So it's got a full feed. I'm one of those lazy guys. I just turn the handle.
Does Brian Burke have a Kiss the Cook apron? Yes or no?
No, but I have a Berkey's Doghouse.
Hey, there you go. Of course, almost forgot about that.
Berkey's Doghouse.
It's funny. The day they took the sign down, the day the Leafs fired me, they took the sign down on Berkey's Doghouse. So I'm pretty sure they knew it was happening. There were two items in the restaurant at 11. There was one menu item that I had called Berkey's Double Double, which was double rice, double chicken on an Asian dish, and then I had a dog of my own in the doghouse, and that was gone. So, yeah, no, I think they knew I was getting fired before I did.
Sorry, so you're actually walking through the mezzanine at Scotiabank Arena back in the day, and you saw that before news came out, or did you notice that after the fact?
No. The people who worked there told me that day. So I was on my way to the airport. We were going down to ratify the new collective bargaining agreement, and I'd been part of the negotiating team. I was pretty excited. And I'm on my way to the airport, and I get a phone call that you got to come back downtown. And I had no idea I was getting fired. Like, there had been no speculation I was getting fired. No one had told me I was in trouble. And I drive down. I was on my way to the airport. So it's like at Avenue Road and I don't know, probably Lawrence. And Tom Anselmi called me and said, you have to come back in. So I turned around. It took me a half hour. This is at 7:30 in the morning. And as I pull into the ACC, as it was then, I'm thinking, they must be firing Tall Brian, which is what we call Brian Colangelo.
Tall Brian?
Tall Brian. There were two Brians. So he's 6'5". Brian Colangelo is a big man. He's much taller than I am. He's a good guy, too. Anyway, I thought they were firing Tall Brian. And I went upstairs, and I got hoofed.
I would have thought it would have been colored Brian, but whatever. That's just me. He always had those the strong collar and
the Tall Brian description. It seems like he needs an axe. Like he seems like he's like a woodsman. Tall Brian.
Our relationship was really good. Their offices were on the same floor as ours, and we had a really good relationship with the Raptors. They shared information with us. We all got along. I went to training camp with them the one year when they were in Halifax, and I was up there scouting. So no, that was a really good. Richard Petty oversaw the whole thing, and he made certain that there was good cooperation between the two teams.
When you say shared information, like what kind of information between the Raptor side and the Leaf side?
Basically anything they wanted to see. They'd look at how we prepared for the draft. They let us look at what they did. They put in a new video system with, like not video system. What's the word I want? Tracking system where you could track where a player shot from and what his percentage of success. They were way more advanced into analytics than we were. Right. And so we got to look at all that. The relationship was excellent. Really, they were fun to work with.
Brian Burke joining us here on Tim and Sid. If we switch gears to completely hockey, listen, I know the way Rod Brindamore coaches, and it's the way he played with ridiculous intensity. But he said that the Canes didn't like the playoff format, saying, "What do we grind for?" For context, they were the first wild card in the East. Is he right? Did they get screwed by this?
A bunch of teams got screwed by this.
Right.
So here's my question for Rod Brindamore or anyone else. What is the alternative? Yeah. The alternative is a stark failure to resurrect the season. There's not one scenario they could draft that would be complete with all these people. And it's like I said on this show, this to me, the people that are whining about imperfections in the system is like looking at a beautiful woman and then commenting that she's wearing ugly shoes. I don't get it. Is it fair to every team? No. Is it perfect? No. But this is, someone dropped a pandemic on pro sports and the rest of the world early in March. Guess what? Everything, all these sports have done. Baseball's wrestling with how to return, how to start up. Basketball's wrestling with how to return. UFC managed it, had a positive test. Like, it's all new. There's no fans. Like, it's totally different. So is this completely fair to Carolina? Nope. I'll concede that. And I'm a big Rod Brindamore fan, so I'll buy him a beer next time I see him. Is this the best way to get back on the ice? Yes.
Seems a little small, doesn't it, Brian? And if Rod was here, I wouldn't say that to his face, but because he'd kick my ass. But like, it seems like, but based on, but with everything you just said, and you're bang on, like, really, you're gonna have a go at what was the regular season for? I was disappointed by the comment.
It's ugly shoes, man. Yeah. That's what this is ugly shoes. And teams are saying, oh, now we might have a hot goaltender. We'll beat them.
Yeah.
Like, for God's sake, remember what the alternative is. The alternative is we shut the league down. There is no Stanley Cup. There are no playoffs. The alternative is starve in the dark. And we've got a plan now where we get to play a large number of teams gets to participate in the playoffs, which is great. I hope not going forward, but for this year is great. Like, let's focus on the positive here and not the ugly shoes.
This was obviously hard work to get 31 teams to agree, and they came pretty damn close when the 29-2 vote. But I wonder if in a month, Brian, we don't look back at this and say this wasn't even close to the hardest part of all this. Like, do you agree that, like, even though this was ridiculously hard to get everyone on board, that there are still some massive hurdles that we need to clear?
Yes, we're not dropping the puck anytime soon. There are massive hurdles to be cleared, and there'll be hurdles thrown in front of us that we don't even anticipate. Like the second spike in some of these places. Like, we are not out of the woods on the science or medicine here. We're not out of the woods on the immigration issues and quarantine. There are lots of ways this could still go south, but we have a plan. And to me, once you have a plan, now you can grab a hammer and start patching up the holes. You can say, okay, we got to fix the immigration issue. Okay, we have to talk to Mr. Trudeau, fix the quarantine issue. We have to find hub cities. You got issue after issue. Do they have enough testing materials right now? No, but they probably will by the time we get to training camp. So what the league did here that was sheer, because I've said from the start, you guys know this, I've said it on your show, we're not going to play. And if we stayed with the conventional calendar for the NHL, I would have been right. There's no way we finish the season, no way we have playoffs, that's it. What the league said is, well, what's so magical about awarding the Stanley Cup in June? We can do it in August. We could do it in September if we have to. This is not a typical year. It's not a usual year. In fact, it is a once-in-a-century event. Why do we have to stick to what worked before? We're going to extend the runway. Now they put the runway in, and you get the chance to work some of these deals out, figure it out, and science is catching up with this virus by the day. We know way more about it now than we did. So will they have enough testing materials? Will it be accurate enough in another 6 weeks? Yeah, I think they will. So I think we can do this now. I've said all along we're not going to play, and we still might not play. There's still a side of me that says, with a very healthy dose of skepticism, that we still might not play. And I'm very nervous about what's happened south of the border the last week or so with the reopening. That being said, we have a chance now to make this work. And I don't blame Carolina for voting a certain way, or Tampa, the two teams that voted against. They don't like the format. They don't like the fact that their team got gypped or whatever. The fact of the matter is we have a plan now. We can play. Let's grab a hammer, grab a handful of nails, and let's start filling in the holes.
Brian Burke here on Tim and Sid. Tampa didn't like the format, but they put out the best video so far. Go to @Tim and Sid on Twitter for that. In terms of the boys are back in town, Tampa, the Bolts did a pretty good job with that. A flying V on jet skis. It was a whole production, so you'll definitely enjoy it. Berkey, the people you're talking to around the league, is the reaction positive? to the format itself? Like, what are you hearing?
Well, okay, go back to a perfect world. A perfect world is you finish the regular season, you have the pause, you come back, you play those regular season games. Then everything goes away, all these issues. The playoff matchups are set by the regular season as they're supposed to be. The conditional picks are awarded or not awarded the way it's supposed to be. The perfect world, and the guy rides off into the sunset with the girl, and everyone cheers, and the lights come on in the theater, and you leave. It's not a perfect world. It's absolutely imperfect. So what's the next best thing? Let's incorporate the teams that were on the bubble. Let's see if we can include as many teams as we can. This year only, God willing. But the fact of the matter is, this is a great alternative to the perfect ending, which we cannot have. So let's figure out, we can get these teams in. We can get hockey back on TV. I think it's a great solution. Again, ugly shoes. Is it fair to Carolina? Maybe not. Is it fair to Edmonton? No, it's not. Like, it would have been a much better finish to the year if it had gone finish out the regular season, but we can't. So
Right.
To me, and I'm one of these guys, like, good Lord, anyone who's complaining now that we have a plan and we get to play, stop complaining. Let's figure out a way to play, drop the puck, and let's go. Stop looking at the ugly shoes. I'm sick of it. I really am. Even in just a couple days since Gary Bettman announced this thing, I'm sick of the whining. There's things I don't like. I don't like the fact that the bye teams, the 4 bye teams, are playing a round robin, and that they're going to use that to reseed them. I think that's grossly unjust. But if they do it, they do it. We're still playing. Boston should be the first seed no matter what. But if they reseed them, ugly shoes. I don't like the fact that we might use brackets. This year of all years, we have an opportunity to reseed after every round and have the best team get the weakest opponent. We should do it. It used to be there were geographical problems with doing that, but we don't have those now because we're in 2 hub sites. Reseed. But if they don't do it, ugly shoes. And I don't like the draft lottery for reasons we've talked about. Ugly shoes. Let's go. Let's play. Let's figure this out.
Brian Burke, Tim and Sid will get off the ugly shoes. One of the conversations that I've been trying to have with Sid, and we haven't lined it up in time, is minor hockey. And listen, Canadians care a bleep load about minor hockey. Have you thought about that in kids and even the OHL or Junior B or Pee Wee hockey for that fact? Trying to get back without the testing that's going to be available to the pros, with the idea of a second wave, with balancing the idea that you want to keep your kid active and socializing and doing all the things that makes hockey great, and then adding crazed hockey parents to the mix. Have you thought about any of that?
Oh, I mean, this whole thing, this whole pandemic, I worry more about what it's doing to my daughters than I worry about what it's doing to our hockey players. I mean, their lives have been disrupted. It's different. You got to talk to them all the time and keep their spirits up, and it's totally different. But here's what I'd say to hockey parents. First off, what kids get from sports, forget the NHL. What kids learn from sports, if you look in business and society and politics, the leaders in our country, so many of them, men and women, were high performance athletes because it requires discipline, requires teamwork. All these traits that you get have nothing to do with who plays in the NHL. Like I love when a junior coach will say, well, that team Memorial Cup team, we had 3 guys go on and play in the NHL. And by the way, we got 2 lawyers and 3 doctors off that team. That's what I love. What sports teaches you, your kid's likely not going to play in the NHL, but what sports teaches you in terms of sacrifice and commitment and scheduling and discipline and teamwork, these are traits that carry into your adult life right to the grave, and the valuable lessons you get. So even if you never work around pro sports, look at the impact sports has. We've got to get these kids back on the ice if we can. But is it worth losing lives over? And the answer is, well, we lose some lives with sports anyway. So kids with cardiac arrhythmia that drop dead, unknown, undiagnosed medical conditions. So there's some risk anyway. We have to figure out balance the risk versus the reward. And it's not about the NHL. It's about healthy lifestyles. It's about doing something they love. It's about physical fitness. So to me, yes, I've thought about it a lot. And I think the guidance they're given so far is really good. So, okay, we have to open up the rinks. Do we have to open up to 20 kids in a full practice? No, we're going to go with smaller groups like the NHL is. Smaller groups first, get them back on the ice. You can do some off-ice fitness stuff, maintain social distance. This is all about buying time till there's a vaccine. But yes, I think about it all the time. I think about junior hockey. I mean, junior hockey is so vital. It's not just where we get our players. It's where we get our coaches, where we get our officials. I look at the strides that women have made in hockey. Is that going to be set back now? And I think about all these things, not about just my job and not just the NHL.
Tim and I have the opportunity every Thursday, and sometimes more than once a week, to ask Burke. Hashtag Ask Burke will be trending high in this country tomorrow night. He has become an internet sensation to the surprise of absolutely no one. Brian Burke is just taking questions left and right, getting chirped by people across our industry, and it is a joyous evening. So, Burke, have fun tomorrow night on another installment of Hashtag Ask Burke, and thanks for joining us for our weekly installment of Hashtag Ask Burke. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.